Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Honestly, thank you for coming today to this webinar. I know everybody's so busy. That's sort of the name of this webinar, Taking Back Deep Work. I think we're going to have a really exciting 45 minutes or so together. My name is Jen Reiner. I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Grammarly. I'm very excited to be your host today. A quick preview of what we're going to go over together today. I'll start with a little bit of housekeeping. The bulk of this conversation is really going to be a discussion around productivity with our amazing panelists today. I will take a little bit of time toward the end to introduce one of Grammarly's newest features, App Actions. And at the very end, we will have time for Q&A. So please pop your questions into the Q&A widget at the bottom. As for housekeeping, so if you want or need to turn on closed captioning, please click the CC button at the bottom of your webinar screen. Because of the size of the webinar, we already automatically muted everybody just to sort of cut down on distractions, but that doesn't mean that we don't want your engagement. Please talk to us, give us your feedback. We love to hear reactions. We want to hear comments and questions, like I said earlier. And of course, tomorrow we will follow up with a recording of this webinar. So if you miss a portion or if you want to share it with a colleague or something like that, keep an eye on your inbox. So I am joined today by our amazing panelists. These are three leaders in the productivity space. I will turn over the floor to Tony. We'll start with you if you could give a quick intro of who you are.
Great. Thanks everyone for coming and thanks for having me, Grammarly. My name's Tony. I'm a product management lead at Asana and I head up our platform team. So we work on API integrations and work with partners like Grammarly to help increase the productivity between Asana and other tools.
Thanks, Tony. Nicholas, you want to take the mic?
Hey guys, my name is Nicholas Holland. I am a VP at HubSpot and also the GM of our marketing products. So we have a product called Marketing Hub that focuses on the marketer, kind of helps them with everything they need to do to run their entire marketing department. And I spend a lot of my time just trying to make their life easier. That's how we end up getting in touch with Grammarly.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicholas. And Jeff.
Hi there, Jeff Hardison. I'm head of product marketing at Calendly. And if you don't know us, we're trying to help everybody love meetings. And we do that through various tools like scheduling and more. And excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are so excited that you all are here. Thank you so much for your partnership and for having this important conversation with us today. Before we dive into the discussion, we just want to take a second to just define why we're even here having this conversation today. So there was a poll at the top of the webinar about your work environment, asks you where you work from. And I'm just curious to see those results. So it looks like, yeah, a lot of people work from home or are hybrid. And that's my case too. And I think it's the case for most of our panelists here. This indicates that we are all operating in a highly connected workplace that requires just a ton of collaboration and alignment. We're becoming really dependent on a lot of applications to facilitate this collaboration. And oftentimes it really creates more noise and less focus for everybody. So in a recent Harvard Business article, how much time and energy do we waste toggling between applications? One single employee from a Fortune 500 consumer goods organization toggled between apps in Windows more than 3,600 times in one workday. That's a lot of times. And it's not like this person was wasting time. They were doing the things that they needed to do, but there was just a lot of inefficiency in that. The average time it takes to switch between apps and website takes about 2 seconds, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you add it up over the course of a year, this can be about 5 weeks of lost productivity in 1 year. And they refer to this as the toggle tax. It just seems like a pretty big problem. And that's what we're here to talk about today. I'm curious if we could just turn to the audience really quick. If in the chat, which should be open, what do you think? Does it strike a chord with you? Describe a feeling when you've bopped around to 15 plus different tabs looking for a specific file. I know I spend a lot of my day just, tab to tab, looking for specific information to pass along or to include. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting. Feel like my brain is breaking. I feel dizzy, very annoying. I know it's a lot. honestly, we have it lost productivity. That's exactly right. Makes me go crazy, Amanda, totally. It's overwhelming. It really is. It's a lot for folks to navigate, I think. And I think that in this modern working world, we have the ability to make it better. We'd love to get to our discussion. So I'd love to open it up to the panelists with a question. And I know this topic resonates with you all. From your perspective as leaders in the workplace productivity space, can you tell us about the workflow challenges you're observing in the workplace? Tony, I'd love to start with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, sounds good. I think this challenge definitely resonates with us. We've been seeing the number of tools needed in a workplace steadily growing. And I think recently there's been two factors that has caused it to spike even more. One is a kind of just a class of best-in-class tools like Asana, like Grammarly, like Calendly, HubSpot, that offer better solutions than what we used to use, which was basically Microsoft or Google maybe 5 to 10 years ago. I think that's a good thing, but there's definitely a lot more apps today out there in the market. And then secondly, during work from home, it definitely spiked as people sought to find solutions to basically cover the gaps that occurred as we all moved away from working in person. So I think learning these tools has been hard, and often these tools have overlapping functionality. So then you have to figure out, should I be using tool A or tool B for a certain workflow? And then the lack of handing off between the tools can also be frustrating when there isn't an integration in place. So for us, we see those challenges, and we've definitely been looking at Asana to try and bring together some of the communication and content we use, at least in our workplace, as a solution.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally hear that, Tony. And we love Asana for that. It really helps us with our productivity. We use it here at Grammarly and love it. Jeff, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Tony's saying. One of the things I've noticed as being a manager in various companies is that you'll see people get really excited about some tool that maybe a salesperson pitched or they read about on, say, like Product Hunt, and we already have a version of that tool, right? And as you all know, there's like explosion of versions of tools that all do the same thing, but they're kind of excited about the novelty maybe, or the way this company's positioning themselves, and they'll do some type of research around other tools around it and spend hours bringing other people in to make the decision. And then the tool is chosen and then it might not even be used. And so a lot of companies probably spend more time researching tools than putting in the rigor to figure out how to train people on the tools, ensure people are using them, and so on and so forth. With us, our own tool, Calendly, we found that people might sign up for free for, say, the web app version. And the people that actually download, say, like the mobile app or particularly the extension, are stickier users for us. And they tend to enjoy their usage of the product more. And so one of the things I tell the team is, like, if you're going to access some type of tool and sign up for it, make sure you know the way that you will most likely use the tool, and research that versus just sign it up and abandon it.
Yep, really insightful. Nicholas, what do you think?
Right now, if you think about it, we were years ago, paper, no technology. And so I think that it's frustrating because we live with it right now, but I tend to see it as like also a bright side. Technology equals productivity. And then as we want more productivity, that then equals tool proliferation, kind of as was said here. And we're more productive now than we've ever been, but that also means that, like, now we have more tools than ever. And that breadth of tools that you use, kind of, you can do a lot more. It does come with some taxes, some cost. So, like, one of the things that breadth comes with as you use more and more tools is that it's hard to go deep on one tool, for example, or really deep on deep work. Then the context switching is a big issue that we all deal with. Every time you have to swap from one tool to another one. I remember them talking about a bell curve before, about where you're trying to get a task done, and there's little bookends on each side. And every time you have to do context switching, those little bookends basically are like leaks in your kind of efficiency bucket. And that basically leads to like lost productivity. So I think, why you have tools like we talked about here that obviously make you more productive, but I think all the tools here, Asana, Grammarly, Calendly, where we're at HubSpot helping marketers, they want everything integrated into one place. And they want as little tool switching and as little context switching as possible. And so we work with partners like this to bring it all into one place where the work goes. And the key is to really make sure that they don't have, they can have a really wide breadth without really losing a lot of that depth.
Yeah, totally. Tool proliferation does lead to productivity, but like you said, I think that that analogy really strikes me. I think that really hits home, sort of that inefficiency that we all feel. I'm curious from the audience again, we're going to pop up a poll. We're going to talk about quickly just how in the post-pandemic era, like the last 12 months or so, how workplaces changed. We're curious if you've noticed how your use of technology at work today compares to pre-pandemic times. So if you guys want to answer that poll. I don't see answers coming in yet, but I think we'll get back to that poll after this question. Maybe we'll skip over to our panelists now and just ask you, Tony, we'll start with you again. What changes have you seen in the workplace in the last 12 months?
Yeah, for us at Asana has definitely been changing back into hybrid work. I was excited to see in the poll before that some of the audience also are in a hybrid scenario. When we were pre-pandemic, when we were all in the office, we knew how to work together. And then when we were all fully remote, we kind of figured out how to work together. And now in this hybrid world, it is definitely a new learning for us when maybe you're in a conference room talking to some other folks in the room, but also we may have colleagues that are remote and joining on Zoom. So you have to learn how to digest the information both in person and virtually. And it's a mix of using software as well as learning how you want to collaborate with your colleagues at work as well.
Totally. Even for Grammarly, we're having an in-person week this week, and we have about 50 people here and probably 20 people remote. And so I just was watching our workplace experience folks get ready for it today. And it's just complicated. There's just much more to navigate, having to, optimize the experience for both remote and in person. I'm seeing these answers come in, and it does look like most people, 50%, have to use a lot more apps today to get work done. And that does not surprise me. Jeff, do you have a perspective on how the workplace has changed in the last 12 or so months?
Yeah, I think Tony brought up a really great point about the post-pandemic environment really kind of helping usher in more quickly the hybrid work life. Another thing that's going on is, we're coming out of, 10 plus years of nearly zero interest rate environment. And that created an environment where we were empowering employees. We were also allowing all kinds of startups to proliferate and pitch us on their services. And, you were able to, as an employee in many companies, particularly modern ones, be able to download whatever software you wanted or access it, via web version or what have you. And I think what's happening now is IT departments and finance departments in this tech downturn in particular, and then just kind of the shaky economic environment, are starting to do a few things. One is they're starting to get more frugal and say, you can't just buy every product out there. You can use it for free, but not necessarily upgrade to a paid plan. Two, IT departments are stepping in, particularly as your company gets bigger, and says, look, we can't have all these tools everywhere. We can't have like 5 different versions of a scheduling tool throughout your organization or 5 different versions of a project management tool. And so they're starting to crack down and say, all right, you need to pick one and standardize it across your company. And so I think a few things that you can do to ensure that whatever tool you want is standardized upon is, ensure you and others are trained on the tools versus you just select it and it's sitting there. Well, IT department's going to notice, hey, no one's used this, right? Particularly if they're tracking. Two, ensure you're using the most convenient version of the tool for you so that you do use it. So, extensions we talked about are important. And then last, celebrate the use of your tool. So if you want people to use it on your team, celebrate how you used it, some win you got from it, and then, evangelize that to another department so that other departments choose your version of the tool versus some competitors.
Absolutely. We have another quick poll for our audience. Curious, what is the biggest disruptor for your deep work? I know most people are really curious about this topic. I'm really interested to hear what our panelists have to say about this. But I'm curious what our audience feels like is the biggest disruptor for our deep work. Is it emails, meetings, notifications that you're getting pinging all the time on all devices? Is it app switching, office environment, all of the above? We don't have that as an option, but I know that that can be the case. Meetings, yes, this meeting can be an email. Memes are going rampant. Notifications, absolutely, at all hours of the day. For sure, for sure. Awesome. Thanks for sending in your answers to that. Yes, yes, and yes, I see that. Okay, so Nicholas, let's start with you. I'm curious, how do you personally create time for deep work? And as leaders, how do you encourage a culture and facilitate an environment that prioritizes deep work? You touched on this a little bit earlier, Nicholas, so let's start with you.
Sure. I think for a lot of people, they don't even recognize that there are two mindsets. So a big part of the issue is just being very clear that there is deep work. There is basically this breadth work. And then you really need to go through, like, do you need deep work? Not all jobs do. If your job is a manager, you one-on-one all day, then the job is actually meeting with people. But by and large, most of us as professionals have some degree of deep work. And I think if you have deep work, then the calendar is the path. So, there's some people that are so fanatical that they say every part of your day should be booked. And that means that any downtime should be booked as theoretically deep work time. So that's like one thing I've seen. When you are in that deep work mode, you saw some of the panelists or people here talk about notifications. Like, there are some tactics that you can do to protect that. So do not disturb, turn off alerts. They've got, ironically, tools to help you do that. Some people just, shut down and work on one app. I think the part that gets hard for a lot of people, though, is that, especially in full remote, is that you're just like always on. And what I think is interesting about that is that if you are always on, then I do encourage people, my team, and I talk to other leaders, you have to be okay with basically turning off for yourself, turning off for if you have deep work, and do it without guilt. And the culture needs to really support it, because I worked till 7 or 8 last night when you needed stuff. In the morning, I might need to take some time to either work or for my family. So I think that's part of the culture. But I think the other thing that's really interesting is there is this like FOMO we talk about here at HubSpot, which is like, I'm just nervous about missing something. So if the team has a meeting and I can't be there, there are issues around that. And so the other part I think is interesting about the deep work part is, does the org value it in such a way that they encourage groups, teams or groups or entire pillars to try to focus on some set deep work time, and that has proven to be effective.
Yeah, that's great. I think when I think about your calendar point, I think about like a budget. You want to know where every dollar is being spent. And so you have to sort of safeguard some of those minutes and hours to get some work done. Thanks, Nicholas. Jeff, what about you? How do you protect deep work for yourself or your team?
Yeah, I agree with Nicholas. Time is our most precious resource, right? It's something we often say at Calendly. And, as a meetings company, I was really intrigued to look at those poll results. I took a screenshot to share the team, and that meetings was like the number one thing that people felt distract them from deep work. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because there's this whole kind of meme, like you said, around, does this meeting need to be a meeting? Could it have been an email? There's also another one I saw that said, like, could this email have been a meeting, right? And so I think we have to kind of figure out how to make meetings better. And one of those is thinking about what we like to say is like the meeting life cycle. And there's obviously scheduling the meetings, the front door of having the meeting, but there's also preparing for the meeting, like making sure people have an agenda And it's not just showing up to the meeting where we just kind of like talk for 15 minutes about what we did that weekend and then figure out what we want to talk about. 2, it's, or 3, it's also having pre-reads. I think the whole hybrid work environment, before that, there was the remote work environment. And in remote work environments, there's a whole culture around async work, meaning, I want to send out a document, let you comment on the document before we even have a meeting. Maybe we don't even need to have the meeting. But if you are going to have a meeting, having that document, that pre-read before, really gets people to think about emotionally and intellectually what you're going to talk about and have a position, so that when you actually show up to the meeting, you're not like trying to get caught up on what the meeting's about. You already kind of know what it's about, and you can have a position and debate it, right? And then last, I think there's, opportunities to use all kinds of tools that are out there on the market right now and that are emerging around like recording the meeting, so that maybe you can't go to the meeting and you can watch a recording at 2x speed and then transcribing the meeting. Maybe you just want to read the meeting. And then maybe you want to like, edit little snippets of the meeting recording and send those out. Hey, product manager, here's 3 customers I talked to this week that asked for this feature. Or, hey, marketing team, this was a great quote from a customer. You didn't have to attend the meeting, but here's a little snippet for you, the gold from that meeting. So, I think kind of making meetings better is a way that we can reduce them from being a distraction on our deep work.
Absolutely. I think those are really great tips. I know at Grammarly, with regards to your pre-read point, Jeff, at Grammarly, sometimes we allow for pre-reading at the beginning of the meeting. Like we build it into the meeting time just so that we can make sure that there's alignment across the board and everybody's clued in.
I like that.
Yeah, great stuff. Tony, what about you?
Yeah, definitely a lot of the points Nicholas and Jeff mentioned resonate with us as well. One thing I'd add about meetings is I think there can be meetings that I would also think of as deep work. It doesn't always have to be kind of a time drain, especially when I'm having meetings with one person or a smaller group of people. I really try to use that time to move my work forward and actually use it as a form of deep work. And things like whiteboarding, brainstorming types of meetings are a great example of this. I also think to deal with notifications, one thing we should try to do is take control of the tools that we use. At Asana, we obviously use Asana for everything, and there are definitely ways to use Asana that can be more distracting if you're just always monitoring your inbox all the time versus being intentional about starting your day, looking at your messages or ending your day in that way. I'm also quite bullish about the addition of AI into some of our tools. For Asana, we're adding Asana Intelligence, and we're finding a lot of great use cases where you can kind of rely on this intelligence as a personal assistant. So it can tell you what you need to know and basically tackle your notifications rather than bringing every single thing up to you. So I'm quite excited how this will pan out over the coming months.
I love that. Getting us just to the important notifications. That's great stuff. Cool. Jeff, you and I talked earlier about potentially you providing an example workflow that one person from your team might actually experience in navigating sort of a project or a task. Do you care to share that now?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of talk, I think, about, what is one's workflow to do what have you. And I think there was a point made earlier about the importance of the workflow working across various tools that need to integrate well. And I think that's where workflows get challenging to make more efficient, because not every tool works well together and not every team works well together. And so one of the things we try to do in Calendly product marketing is to get other teams, sales, marketing, customer success, product, all to work better together for the sake of the company and our customers. And so an example of that is, a lot of times a prospect of our customers' products might go on to our customer's website and try to book a meeting at like 10 p.m. at night. And maybe the SDR salesperson is asleep and they don't get the alert. Maybe they're on vacation. And so they don't get back to the customer until the next day, or even worse. And so what if, from like an inbound marketing perspective, you could just allow somebody to book time with that salesperson right then at 10 p.m. and then that meeting just lands in the inbox when that salesperson wakes up in the morning. So that's one way of making it more efficient across tools. And there's all kinds of tools you need to do that, right? And then next, it's like, what about helping sales be better about outbound sales? And so a lot of times, you'll find salespeople will send out, like, say, their scheduling link to try to book a time, and then maybe they'll do it via LinkedIn, or maybe they'll do it via email. We've all gotten like, hey, here's my scheduling link, book some time with me so I can sell you my product. What if, we made that more efficient by making it easier to just grab it from the browser, right? And that's what our extension is used for. Or what if it integrated better with your email tools? Like, say you use ActiveCampaign to send out the emails. We want to make sure you're integrated well with that, right? And so not only thinking about how to use the tools, but how they integrate better, I think is a key to like making workflows more efficient.
Absolutely. I think that's really the next horizon in terms of productivity improvements across the board. Thanks for sharing that, Jeff. It's complicated, even just getting one thing done. You're using many, many apps, as we all know and have discussed today. So that same Harvard Business Review article I mentioned earlier says most enterprise applications weren't designed to connect to each other, which means that people operate in swivel chair roles, fetching and transforming data from multiple applications and then submitting data into other systems. I know that sounds familiar to me. So Grammarly is introducing an integration solution. And because Grammarly is available everywhere you write, you'll now be able to access third-party functionality, critical workplace apps from wherever you're working. App Actions, I'm going to introduce that now, if you guys don't mind, is one of Grammarly's newest features, and we're really excited about it because I think it really helps to solve a lot of the problems that we've discussed today. It can help your team be more efficient by connecting workplace apps into Grammarly, as discussed. Team members can easily take the next step in their workflow. So some of the initial integrations that we have allow users to drive projects forward with our friends at Asana, Jira, Monday.com, Riker, Smartsheet. You can quickly access files and link to them from wherever you're working with Microsoft 365, Google Drive, and Confluence. Marketers and sales folks can create or reference HubSpot CRM contacts from wherever they're writing. You can schedule meetings, as we talked about today, and you'll see in the demo soon. You can schedule meetings with your Calendly wherever you're working, or bring your writing to life with Giphy and Unsplash images. So we are going to switch over now quickly to a demo of App Actions. Excited to show you. I think it will help to resonate a little bit more to see it. So without further ado, here's our demo of App Actions. In this demo, I'll walk you through two different workflows using Grammarly's new feature, App Actions, designed to minimize the constant context switching teams and professionals face throughout the day, so your team can stay focused and efficient, delivering their best work. First, let's take a look at how you and your team can create, search for, and link to HubSpot contacts directly from Grammarly. In this example, I've just received an email from Caroline. I met her last week at a conference. She really thinks that Grammarly is the tool that her team needs, and she'd like to start the evaluation process. She'd like to set up a meeting. So this is a hot lead. I know that this is someone that I want to get into our sales team's hands pretty quickly. So before I respond to her, I'm actually going to add her contact to our CRM. I'm going to hover over the light bulb icon where I pull up Grammarly suggestions. And then I'm going to go to the More section. You can see all of the app actions that Grammarly has on offer now. We're going to go to Find or Create a Contact in HubSpot, which is our CRM. I'm going to go to Create a Contact and type in her email address. Caroline@acmeco.com. First name is Caroline, last name Lee. I am the contact owner, and the job title is Director of IT. And all I have to do is create a contact. And there she goes. She's already in our HubSpot. That's all I need to do here for now. But while I'm here, I'll send Caroline a link to my Calendly so that she can find a time that works for her to chat with myself and Jess on our sales team. So I've already drafted this email to her. Great meeting you too. Let's hop on a call with Jess from our sales team. Feel free to snag any available 30 minutes from this Calendly link. So I'm going to copy this text that I want to hyperlink with my Calendly link. I'm going to again go back to the light bulb icon. I'm going to select Share Availability via Calendly. I have a number of event types set up within my Calendly, but this 30-minute meeting selection looks great to me. And then I'm just going to replace this text with this hyperlink, and it's been inserted into my email. I can go ahead and send this off and carry on down my inbox. As you can see, this workflow, which used 3 applications, Gmail, HubSpot, and Calendly, was cut down in time significantly from hopping around from app to app. The next step in this workflow is to give my colleague Jess a heads up that I've added a new contact in our CRM. And for that, I'll hop over to Slack. Okay, so here I am in Slack, and I'm just going to send a quick message to Jess saying I connected with Caroline at last week's conference, just sent her an email to coordinate a call with us, and that I've added her as a contact in HubSpot. And I do want to send Jess a link to that HubSpot listing just so that she can reference that in our call next week. So what I'm going to do is again, copy the copy that I want to use as the hyperlink. I'm going to hover over the light bulb icon, and then I'm going to go to find or create a contact in HubSpot again. Instead of creating a contact, I'm going to go to find a contact, and you can see Caroline, as we had just seen, was added to our HubSpot. So I'm just going to select her name. It's been hyperlinked, and I can shoot this off to Jess right away. The second workflow I'm going to show you involves adding files from Google Drive and also creating project management tasks right from where I'm working in Slack. In this example, I'm following up with her about a new campaign we're working on, and she's asked me to share the campaign brief we discussed during a call. So to do so, copy the text that we want to hyperlink, go to the light bulb icon, go to the More section. Again, you can see all the app actions that we offer. We're going to click on Find a File in Google Drive. The XYZ campaign brief is the one I've been working on, and it's the one I want to send her. So instead of going all the way out to Google Drive, I can just find it right from here where I'm working in Slack. I'm going to select the file, I've hyperlinked it, and I can send it off from there. The same functionality is also available through OneDrive and Confluence app actions. The next step in my workflow is to create an Asana task to track this campaign work. And I can also do this directly from the message I'm sending to my colleague. So if Asana is not your project management tool, we also offer Monday.com, Wrike, and Smartsheet integrations. To create a task right from where I'm working, I'll just, again, click on the Grammarly Assistant, the light bulb icon. You're getting the hang of this now. We're going to go to the More section. We're going to find Asana, find or create a task in Asana. I'm going to give this a task name, XYZ campaign. I'll give it a description later. The project name is also XYZ. I am the assignee, and then the due date, I will give it a due date of next Friday. Then I'm going to create the task. And you can see it's been added to Asana. I can link off to see it in Asana if I need to, or I can just insert it into my copy. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and insert it. And there you have it. It's been added right to our Slack message. And that is app actions. Super exciting. Sorry, it looks like a couple of you mentioned that it was blurry, so apologies for that. We'll try to get that demo over to you directly so that hopefully it comes through a little bit better. Maybe it's because we streamed it through the webinar. Quick takeaways before we get to questions. And just a reminder, we do have a question and answer period coming up. So if you have any questions for Tony, Nicholas, and Jeff, please get them into our Q&A widget at the bottom of your webinar screen. Some quick takeaways that we heard today already. Be power users of your tech stack. When you're bringing new tech in, new apps in, ensure that your team knows how to use their tools effectively. Make sure that you're working on, getting better integrations between tools, all of these things we talked about today. Second is think speed and fidelity of work. Yes, speed, getting things done quickly is important most of the time. But it's also important to allow your teams to really get into that flow state, get really meaningful work done. And then empower teams to protect their time. So it's really about building that culture that Nicholas was talking about, making sure that it's acceptable for folks to find their deep work time. Better integrated tools, respected calendar, do not disturbs, fewer meetings or better run meetings, things like that. Following the webinar today, you'll be able to get in touch with each of our partners on this panel, Asana, Calendly, and HubSpot, to learn more about how you can use their products and integrate their features wherever you work using App Actions. You'll also see a poll pop up on your screen somewhere. I'm not sure where it'll pop up. If you're interested in scheduling a custom demo with one of our AI specialists to learn about how Grammarly's App Actions feature can help your team or organization save time and take back deep work, please let us know. We would love to get in touch with you. Okay, so let's hop into some questions from the audience. First question, how do you systematize deep work? Also, how do you pronounce systematize? How does it become something you and your teams do rather than talk about? How does it become part of your regular routine? Nicholas, if you wouldn't mind taking that one.
Yeah. So we say it first that deep work is preferable over not deep work, and being kind of in control of your calendar is preferable over being reactionary. So those are like some just basic mindset things that I think can help. You then kind of set team norms. So we kind of talk about it, are meetings troublesome? What are the techniques around that? So we'll do some techniques now where we give a metaphor. Most people probably have heard this, but you put the big rocks inside of the jar, and then you fill in the pebbles, and then you fill in the sand. And if you're not careful, then meetings and Slack notifications and email, that will be all the pebbles in the sand. And pretty soon you didn't get any big rocks done. So there's that concept. There are some other things that I think are pretty interesting, which is we've got some cultural norms. Like, it's very common to say, hey, can I get a standing biweekly meeting? And someone will say, why don't we try the first one and then see if we want to keep going? So that's like a gentle, polite way of saying, like, do we really need to have recurring meetings? Let's see. So each meeting should earn the next meeting. And then the last part is that, believe it or not, a lot of people don't right size their meetings. They just default to 45 minutes to an hour. And there are many meetings that you can really get a lot done in just like 25, 30 minutes. And so those might be some things that help out.
Totally. That's great. Another question coming in is who in your organization selects the platforms or apps that the organization uses? Do you get stakeholder input, or is it an executive level decision? Do you allow one-off platforms or apps for teams that ask, or do you require the same tech stack enterprise-wide? Jeff, I feel like you might have a good perspective on that one. You want to take it?
Yeah, I would say for the company, we have historically allowed people to use, many of the free apps that are out there, and many teams, might allow someone to upgrade with, a credit card to be able to buy. I think it's natural as we've gotten bigger, as, we're growing as a company. There's more kind of rigor around finance weighing in, IT weighing in on what all those tools are, particularly if they're paid tools, and also from just like a security perspective and so forth. So I think things have evolved a bit on my team. I can speak for us, and that is, as you all can see earlier in the talk, I'm pretty passionate about people just not spending a lot of time researching tools, getting them, and then not using them. And so we try to have various, stakeholders weigh in, particularly if we're switching from one tool to another that, some salesperson has presented. There's a lot of work that's lost learning that old tool and having processes around it. And let's ensure if we switch to this other one, it's going to give us everything we want. Let's ensure that we're going to fully train on it. We're not going to switch to yet another tool 6 months from now, and so forth. So I'm pretty passionate about that just on our team.
Awesome. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one, or should I move to the next question? I'll go to the next question. Okay, so people hate change and often like the tools they're familiar with. Any tips on getting people to accept changes to move to a similar set of apps that fit better into workflows? Tony, you want to take that one? Maybe
Yeah.
you haven't spoken.
Take that one. Yeah, I think I'm thinking back to what Jeff mentioned earlier. Like, a lot of times, we see kind of IT departments trying to consolidate tools more and more often. I think it's important when a team or company decides to switch tools or consolidate tools, that they really help everyone understand what the reason is and what the justification is. Because I think there is always pros and cons, right? A subset of the team probably are going to face more challenges in learning a different tool, but there might be a different set of the team that is already on the other tool and they're going to see benefits. Or maybe it simply just helps the company save more budget to be used elsewhere. So making sure that the reason is transparent is useful, because we don't just change tools for no reason. And then providing just the right training and enablement so that you're making the switch as seamless as possible. Oftentimes there might be a migration of data that could also be handled, and obviously looking at integrations to make kind of the new workflow easier to use.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Maybe time for one more question. Any tips on helping employees develop better habits with newer tools as well as the technical aspect of things? Tony or anyone else want to maybe take a stab at that one?
Yeah, I can maybe take a first stab. Similar to kind of my answer to before, for us internally, we actually have a Slack channel that we've created for having employees essentially help each other with tools. We also have another Slack channel called like Productivity Geeks, where people really share their own best tips and best practices that they found. Because everyone uses the tools differently, but there may be other experts at your company that likes to work in a similar way as you, and you can kind of learn from them on how to use these tools in the best way possible. So introducing these resources we found to be really useful.
Awesome. Jeff or Nicholas, anything to add there? Okay, I think we are getting close to time, so maybe we wrap up questions. We'll move on. Next steps we would love to share with you. We are sharing a link right now, I believe, in the chat, so please click that to fill out a brief survey. We would love to hear any meaningful feedback that you have about the content that was shared today. It really does mean a lot to us to hear from you. If you don't have time for that today, that's okay. We will send it in the email, which gets me to step 2. Check your inbox soon. We will send out a replay of this webinar. And it will also include direct links to talk to the product experts that you talked to today from HubSpot, Calendly, and Asana. Maybe not them directly, but their organizations. And also stay in touch. Please give us a follow. Don't miss any great content. You can follow all 4 of our organizations on X and on LinkedIn. And I just want to say a really big thank you to our panelists today. We appreciate all the expertise you brought, and thank you again also to our attendees. Appreciate you being here. Have a great day.